What if some of Marvel's earliest cartoons aired only once, vanished, and then survived only in blurry reels and collector's boxes? The 1960s were full of bold experiments, forgotten pilots, and strange one-off broadcasts. Today, we uncover the lost side of Marvel's animated history, and somewhere in this list, a cosmic surprise waits to be rediscovered. Number 15. The Marvel Superheroes, Submariner, 1966. Some shows fade with time, but others disappear in pieces, leaving behind fragments that feel almost mythical. The Submariner segments from the Marvel Superheroes, released in 1966, belong in that second category. The series itself was simple and charming. It used comic art panels with limited animation, but Namor's episodes were bold, stormy, and surprisingly ambitious. The problem is that not all of them survived in their full broadcast form. Several prints aired only in small regional markets, and those versions contained scenes, narration lines, and transitions that later disappeared from syndication. Collectors eventually rescued what they could, digitizing scraps from 16mm film reels pulled from storage rooms and forgotten station vaults. Watching them today feels like finding hidden chapters of early Marvel history. Namor battles undersea threats, clashes with surface dwellers, and stands tall as one of Marvel's earliest animated anti-heroes. While the animation is basic, the storytelling has weight and energy. These lost reels remind viewers that even in the 1960s, Marvel was already thinking about world-building and personality-driven heroes. The fragments might be rough, but they hold the spark of something bigger. Number 14. Captain America, 1966. Before the modern world turned him into a blockbuster icon, Captain America appeared in a series of still-frame adventures in 1966. The episodes were part of the Marvel Superheroes package, but few people know they were also aired separately in Canada and Australia in a different structure. Those broadcasts included unique opening cards, extended narration, and a few frames that never reappeared in later collections. For years, fans believed these alternate versions were impossible to find. Then, old station archives began to surface. Collectors uncovered off-air recordings and aging broadcast tapes that revealed how different Captain America once looked on television. These episodes have a raw charm. The limited animation does not hold back the energy of the stories, which draw directly from the comic run of the era. The patriotic colors, bold outlines, and narration-heavy pacing make them feel more like vintage serials than cartoons. Watching them now gives a glimpse into Marvel's earliest attempts to bring comic panels to the screen with style and heart. These rare cuts are a reminder that even simple animation can carry real excitement when the storytelling is confident and direct. Number 13. Iron Man and the Crimson Dynamo, 1966. Imagine watching early Iron Man adventures where the art looks like it stepped straight out of a comic page. That was the appeal of Iron Man's 1966 animated run. But buried inside that series are episodes with missing or altered sequences, especially those featuring the Crimson Dynamo. These segments were pulled, trimmed, or replaced because early animators struggled with timing, budget limits, and regional broadcast rules. As a result, some versions disappeared, leaving only incomplete edits behind. Years later, collectors unearthed reels with the original frames intact. These rough transfers show Tony Stark in his early golden armor, facing threats with confidence and charm. The Dynamo sequences are especially striking because they attempt action that the show's limited movement style rarely attempted. Even with static images and minimal animation, the tension still builds. The storytelling relies on strong narration, bold sound cues, and dramatic poses that freeze in the mind. The lost frames give a fuller picture of Iron Man's earliest animated personality. They are raw, imperfect, and incredibly important. Without them, the evolution of the character's on-screen journey would feel incomplete. Number 12. Thor, 1966. Thor's 1966 animated series was bright, pulpy, and full of cosmic charm. It wasn't flashy by modern standards, but it delivered pure comic book energy. The Destroyer storyline, however, has its own mystery. Several early broadcasts included sequences that vanished entirely when the episodes were re-edited for later reruns. Some scenes were trimmed for pacing, others were softened because they felt too intense for younger viewers of the time. The result was a set of episodes with gaps that longtime fans always questioned. Decades later, collectors located alternative reels that preserved the original cuts. These versions show richer transitions, longer standoffs, and more of the epic tone that defined early Marvel. Thor stands defiant with his hammer raised, the destroyer looms with its glowing face, and the narration builds a larger-than-life atmosphere. The visuals, though minimal, capture the sense of myth and scale that Marvel loved exploring. Watching these restored moments today feels like stepping into a forgotten chapter of Asgard's early animation history. The lost cuts prove that even with limited tools, the creators aimed for drama, power, and heart. Number 11. The Incredible Hulk, 1966. Before the Hulk became a television star in the 1970s and then a blockbuster icon much later, he made his animated debut in 1966. But the first episode most viewers know is not the first one that was created. A rough pilot variation existed, complete with different narration, softer colors, and an experimental tone. This version aired only in a few test markets before being replaced with the more polished version used across the country. For years, many believed this early pilot was lost forever, until faded reels surfaced from private collections. The alternate pilot shows a quieter, more atmospheric introduction to the character. The Hulk's transformation scenes are slower, his movements more shadowed, and the narration carries a dramatic edge. Even the music feels slightly different, leaning into mystery instead of action. The pilot isn't perfect, but it has a strange charm. It shows the creators shaping the character's identity in real time, testing rhythms and moods before settling on the style audiences would later recognize. This lost version reminds viewers how much experimentation shaped early Marvel animation and how even forgotten edits can reveal surprising depth. Number 10. Submariner and the Atlantis Rising Arc. Some stories vanish not because people forgot them, but because they aired only once and never returned. That is the fate of the Atlantis Rising Arc from the 1966 Submariner series. These episodes aired in a few local markets across the United States, then quietly disappeared when networks reshuffled schedules. For decades, fans spoke about them as rumors. A few had childhood memories of Namor standing against rising waves or confronting mysterious surface dwellers, but no one could prove they existed. Then collectors began uncovering battered 16mm reels from old station storage rooms. The prints were rough, the colors faded, but the episodes were real. This arc shows Namor at his most determined. The animation is limited, just as it was in the rest of the Marvel superheroes lineup, but the spirit is strong. Namor defends Atlantis with bold confidence, giving viewers a glimpse into a larger mythology that Marvel had not yet explored deeply on television. The episodes carry a sense of mystery and tension, supported by dramatic narration and sharp comic panel artwork. These recovered pieces give fans a rare window into early Marvel world-building, proving that even the simplest shows aimed for scale and imagination. Number 9. The Fantastic Four, Diablo episode, 1967. The Fantastic Four animated series from 1967 delivered bright colors, cosmic landscapes, and a sense of adventure that defined the team. But one episode gained a reputation of its own, the Diablo story. Some regions refused to air it, claiming the themes of sorcery and transformation felt too intense for younger viewers of that era. Because of that, the episode became a quiet legend among fans who never quite knew why they had gaps in their broadcast memories. Eventually, old reels resurfaced through fans who saved early recordings or acquired original prints. The Diablo episode stands out for its ambitious tone. Reed Richards experiments with impossible science. Johnny Storm races through crackling energy fields, Sue Storm uses her abilities with calm focus, and Ben Grimm delivers humor with heart. Diablo himself, though portrayed with tame animation, brings a theatrical flair that fits perfectly within the series' dramatic rhythm. The storytelling blends mystery, teamwork, and science adventure in a way that feels ahead of its time. Watching the full episode today, it becomes clear why it left such a strong impression. It has scale, color, and emotional punch. This once hidden gem now sits as one of the most memorable chapters in early Marvel animation. Number 8. Spider-Man 1967. Spider-Man's 1967 series became famous for its theme song, moody backgrounds, and a surprising amount of creative energy. But when Ralph Bakshi took over direction, the show transformed into something dreamlike. He reused painted cityscapes, created surreal lighting, and pushed the tone into a strange, atmospheric style. Yet some of those episodes disappeared from rotation entirely. They were replaced with lighter reruns, leaving the darker Bakshi cuts nearly forgotten. The Lost City episodes feel unlike anything else in 60s animation. Peter Parker swings across skies painted in deep purples and greens, the city below melting into impressionistic shapes. The villains step through misty hallways or appear in shadowy corners. The pacing slows down, then suddenly picks up with urgent narration. These episodes were bold experiments in mood, trying to give Spider-Man's world a sense of depth and tension. Although the action is limited by the animation style, the atmosphere is unforgettable. Today, the restored versions show how creative the team was, even with a small budget. The episodes may have vanished from official broadcasts, but thanks to fan archives, they remain some of the most striking glimpses of early Marvel storytelling. Number 7. Spider-Man Next Week Bumpers. 1967. Most people think the 1967 Spider-Man cartoon exists only as the episodes themselves. But on the original broadcasts, there was another layer that almost vanished completely. The Next Week Bumpers. Short previews that teased what was coming in the next episode. They played like tiny cliffhanger trailers, and they were built to keep kids locked in for the following Saturday. When later home video releases happened, these bumpers were usually cut out. That is why so many fans grew up never knowing they existed at all. What makes them feel like lost Marvel animation is how rare the surviving set is. Many are still missing, and only a handful have resurfaced through collectors and off-air recordings. Some versions reveal alternate narration rhythms and different presentation than what the DVDs preserved. It is a small detail, but it changes the feel of the whole series. You do not just watch Spider-Man. You feel the network selling Spider-Man in real time as an event. These bumpers are fragments of the original experience, and they prove how much television history can be erased simply by editing the edges. Number 6. Space Ninja Golems, Fantastic Four, Japanese broadcast cut, 1969. The Fantastic Four cartoon of 1967 did not just travel overseas. In Japan, it returned in 1969 under a completely different identity, Space Ninja Golems. The same core animation, but reframed through a Japanese dub that changed names, catchphrases, and tone. Mr. Fantastic becomes Golems. The Invisible Girl becomes Susie. The Human Torch becomes Fireboy. The Thing becomes Gunrock. It sounds unreal until you actually see the surviving clips. What makes this feel like a lost Marvel cartoon is that it plays like an alternate universe version of Marvel history. Fans outside Japan barely knew it existed, and parts of the dub have been described as partially missing over time. Yet enough material survives online to show how dramatically different the experience was. It is louder, stranger, and more playful in delivery, while still carrying the bones of the American episodes. Watching Golems today feels like opening a door to a hidden international branch of Marvel animation that never made it into official English-language collections. It is not just rare. It is Marvel seen through another culture at the exact moment Marvel was still inventing itself on television. Number 5. The Marvel Superheroes. Original broadcast intro and closing package, 1966. The Marvel Superheroes is remembered for its limited animation and comic panel style. But what many fans never saw again for decades were the original broadcast bookends. The true intro and closing package as it aired in 1966. These pieces were often chopped off in reruns and later releases, sometimes replaced by generic openings, sometimes removed entirely. That is why collectors treated the full intro and closing like lost treasure. It is not just a theme. It is the original identity of the show as a syndicated television event. When these elements resurfaced online, it felt like early Marvel history snapped back into focus. The pacing is different. The presentation feels more deliberate. You can sense how the package was designed to make 5 separate hero segments feel like one big Marvel world. The intro sells the idea of a shared universe before that phrase existed in pop culture. The closing carries the same energy like a curtain drop after a comic book performance. These restored pieces are short, but they are essential. They are the missing frame around the picture, and without them, the 1966 Marvel experiment feels incomplete. Number 4. Captain Marvel, 1960's. In the late 1960s, Marvel explored the idea of adapting Captain Marvel into a bright, family-friendly animated series. A short pilot was created by a small animation studio trying to prove they could bring the oddball character to children's television. It never aired. Instead, it was shown only in private pitch meetings, then tucked away when networks shifted their focus. For years, the pilot was considered lost, mentioned only in old studio notes and interviews. Much later, fragments surfaced in the form of low-resolution transfers from aging tapes. The footage shows Captain Marvel flying above stylized city skylines with warm colors and smooth line work. The tone is gentle and upbeat, clearly aimed at young viewers. The narration focuses on courage, quick thinking, and teamwork. The reel also experiments with transitions that blend comic book panels with simple animation. While not flashy, it radiates charm. Captain Marvel appears bright and confident, acted with optimism and kindness. The pilot never became a full show, but the fragments reveal a version of Marvel animation that could have taken a very different route. It is a reminder that before every success, there are quiet attempts filled with creativity and hope. Number 3. Submariner Anti-Hero Pilot Segment, 1965. Before Namor settled into his regular Marvel superhero segments, an early standalone pilot segment was produced to test audience reaction. This version leaned harder into his role as an anti-hero rather than a defender of peace. The narration frames him as unpredictable, dangerous, and emotionally distant. Surface world cities are shown as intrusive forces rather than innocent victims. The tone is darker and more confrontational than what later aired nationally. This early segment aired briefly in limited markets before being replaced by a softer re-edit. For decades, only partial memories existed until collectors uploaded surviving prints online. The footage shows harsher dialogue, more ominous music cues, and longer pauses between scenes. Namor is less talkative and more imposing. Even with limited animation, the mood feels heavy. This pilot version reveals how close Marvel came to presenting a morally complex lead character during a time when children's television avoided ambiguity. It is a fascinating lost chapter that shows Marvel testing narrative boundaries far earlier than most viewers realize. Number 2. Marvel Superheroes, Commercial Bumpers and Lost Intros, 1966. While the Marvel Superheroes episodes survived largely intact, many of their original broadcast bumpers did not. These short animated intro and outro segments were created specifically for network transitions. They featured unique narration character callouts and sometimes alternate artwork not seen in the episodes themselves. Because they were considered disposable, they were rarely preserved. Decades later, collectors began uploading surviving bumpers sourced from off-air recordings and station reels. These brief clips are fascinating. Characters introduce themselves directly to viewers. Music cues differ from episode versions. Some narration lines reference upcoming episodes that never aired again. The artwork occasionally features poses not reused elsewhere. Though short, these lost segments provide crucial insight into how Marvel marketed its characters to television audiences in the 1960s. They feel immediate, enthusiastic, and experimental. Watching them now is like peeking behind the curtain of early Marvel television strategy. Small pieces, perhaps, but invaluable in understanding how the brand learned to speak directly to its audience. Number 1. The Silver Surfer, 1960s Pilot. Long before he appeared in modern films or gained a full series in later decades, the Silver Surfer almost made his television debut in a 1960s pilot. Marvel wanted to explore cosmic stories, but budgets and technical limits held the idea back. Still, a short pilot was created using detailed artwork, dramatic narration, and soft motion effects to convey the vastness of space. It was ambitious, thoughtful, and unlike anything else attempted in Marvel animation at the time. The pilot never aired because the production costs were too high and networks hesitated to commit to a show that required more complex artwork than typical children's programming. For decades, only rumors suggested it existed. Then, a damaged master tape surfaced through a private archive, revealing the forgotten project. The pilot shows the Silver Surfer gliding across starfields, reflecting on distant worlds and unseen journeys. The scenes are calm, slow, and atmospheric, with backgrounds painted in deep blues and bright cosmic tones. The narration adds a sense of scale and quiet wonder. Even in its rough form, the pilot feels poetic. It proves Marvel was ready to explore deep space storytelling long before technology made it easy. These forgotten cartoons prove Marvel was dreaming boldly long before modern animation caught up. Some vanished, some survived in fragments, but each adds a spark to the studio's early history. Which lost project amazed you most? Share your thoughts. Subscribe for more deep dives and keep exploring. You never know which hidden reel might resurface next.